What's up, YouTube friends and family? First of all, I want to thank all of you guys for the donations, for the subscriptions, subscribing, everything. I want to thank Wayne. I want to thank Gib. I want to thank Angelique. I don't see the rest of them. Chris and Colonel, and all the rest of them. Another shot goes out to Anna Von Wrights. Definitely want to thank you guys for reaching out to me. Means a lot. Thank you for helping to support this channel and the movement. It's great that we're all working together. I also want to send out a shout out to Knowledge Well Media on YouTube, A6 Grind Time also on YouTube, and Finest Thing Walking. We've been pulling this information together, and we're making it happen. So thank you guys. For all those of you guys who don't know them, definitely take the time to check out their channels if you will. A lot of good information there. So let's get started. So this particular informational video is going to be about the federal jurisdiction. Okay, so the federal jurisdiction starts by having been from the creation of Washington, D.C. You know, once Washington, D.C. was created, it was a district of Columbia. Okay, so it is actually not American. You might see the words U.S. next to it, but that's because they own that part. If you notice, there's no A behind it. So if it's not of America, United States of America, USA, of the Republic, or under the Constitution, it's not us. Now I'm just thinking, yes, they do intertwine the U.S. with the U.S. of A. They work together, okay? But that's why there's a name difference, because there's different sections on it. And you can even tell that by when you get the passport process done, you look at the application on there, it says the U.S., the U.S. And then you get your passport done, it says U.S. of A. Because they're working in tandem, they work together, all right? But they're not the same thing. Washington, D.C. has its own charters, its own statutes, its own constitution. Each state actually has its own constitution, which is why you can be a state citizen. Okay, because you're holding yourself underneath that particular charter. So right from birth, you are a citizen of the state that you were born in. Okay, Wisconsinite. Okay, then because of the United States of America's Constitution, which brought all the states together, that's another jurisdiction. So you've got those two things. You're a U.S. national as well. Then, as we all know, the birth certificate that was given to us, coerced to our mothers by the staff there at the hospital, gave us either a certificate of live birth or a birth certificate. Now, a birth certificate especially is a federal form. It's a federal document, okay? That's why you can't just copy it and do stuff with it, because it's copyright infringement. They own that information. You can't do that. The certificate of live birth used to be given out as from the hospital as no associations or attachments to the federal jurisdiction. Well, the word certificate is a federal word. It means you're on that level and on that jurisdiction. So does apostille or apostille. So these days, when doing the process our way, you definitely want to get it authenticated by sending it off to at least the state. Okay, that brings it back into the correct jurisdiction. So Washington, D.C. is privately owned, and what you have to ask yourself is who owns it. Okay, it's privately owned. That's just like when you hear the word Commonwealth, too. For some people who've been doing the passport process, they've been like, oh, they're saying that I can't do it because, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, check to see if you were born in the Commonwealth. Check to see if you were born in Washington, D.C. If you are, we do have a process to kind of help you along with that, depending on your situation. So, you know, definitely reach out and contact. We've done it for other people and we've been successful, especially since the beginning, where some of you guys were throwing these questions and problems at me. And I definitely appreciate you having faith that I will figure it out or that I know it already. I don't know everything, by all means, but I do know a lot, and I'm definitely pretty clever at, you know, figuring out how to get around situations, okay? And by that I mean, you know, your lawful ways of utilizing remedies. There's tons of remedies out there. It's just the average person isn't used to having to survive like that. I grew up on what we call the north side. So for me, it was right on the edge of a black neighborhood, right on the edge of a white neighborhood. And so you had to be clever in order to, stay ahead of the curve, if you will, in dealing with the, you know, situations. So, okay, so Washington, D.C. is now officially, you do not have probably the authority or the power to see whose all names are on there. But I'll give you this. If you Google United States goes bankrupt and was bought out by billionaires, millionaires, you'll find out who owns Washington, D.C. But there are other people who have their hands in it and control through it. And let's just say if you ever stop and think about having a spot of tea, or you look around, you will see that there are some places that are also own and have their reach in there. Hail Hydra, by the way. Also, if you were to, let's see, how should I say? I'm trying not to give out everything. I want you guys, some of you to do homework. I'm not trying to put too much out there. But let's just say you're going to have a hard time finding out everybody who owns it because it's considered a security thing. All right? So I'll leave it at that. And then from there are people, to use the term lightly, above that who are running things, okay? But that stuff is way above most of your guys' pay rates, so we'll leave that alone for now. But you can also look up the three most powerful, Google, what are the three most powerful cities or countries in the world? And then you'll start to have an idea of what's going on. And you'll find something interesting is that these three places are small in size, but powerful in stature, especially control and finance, okay? So you have to know the distinctions, people, that's going on. Like I said, a lot of this I learned from when in school, before it was taken over by the federal jurisdiction. They taught things like civics and whatever else. Or when I was in Boy Scouts, we had to learn all these things. That's how I learned them, because the forefathers and whatever else, the people, the OGs, they knew all this stuff. It's just been the later generations that have been like, oh, I'm just happy to be on my cell phone. Who's messing around with who, and who's on, looking at entertainment stuff and blah, blah, blah. See, they want to keep you guys distracted. Okay? A lot of you guys have never really gone to war. You guys have had some little street spats with your homeboy or somebody who shorted you or whatever else. You guys ain't never read books on what it truly means to go to war. Read The Art of War. Okay? Read some of these books. Was it that talk about different strategies, and you'll find out that you're actually in those things. Okay, there's certain aspects that once you control them, you can control the people, and some of it is controlling the education. That's why the federals stepped in and were like, oh, we'll take care of the educational systems. And that's why some of you guys are old enough to remember the day in homeroom when the homeroom teacher said, from this day forward, you guys will never have to worry about saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And they took the flags down, and you don't have to say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. That was part of the phase right there. Why do you think the educational system, they don't teach you how to balance a checkbook? They don't teach you how to cook anymore. They teach you all this complicated math that you're never really going to use unless you join, like a tech firm or NASA. And even then, they've got programs for that now. Okay? They don't teach you social interactions. All right? They don't teach you home ec. Very few schools. I think went to one of the last schools that taught you how to do electronics and build things from scratch all the way up, because they don't want you to know how to do those things. Because when you learn how to do that, you can learn how to modify your computers. You can learn how to do all these things. Now you can go out and do these things as specialties, but they don't teach them really in schools anymore. They don't want you to know, because knowing means you have power. And if you're going to control the masses, like in The Art of War,